The big hall was full of rich people. They wore expensive clothes and held wine glasses in their hands. The women had shiny jewelry that caught the light from the huge chandeliers above. The men wore black suits that cost more than most people made in a month. They talked and laughed loudly, showing off their white teeth. This was Steinway Hall in New York City. It was one of the most expensive places in the whole city. Tonight there was a special party to raise money for poor children. But the people here did not look like they worried about money at all. In the middle of the big room sat a beautiful black piano. It was huge and shiny. The wood looked like a mirror. This piano cost more than a house. Everyone who walked by it stopped to look. Some people touched it gently, like they were afraid it might break. Marcus Whitfield stood near the piano. He was 35 years old and very handsome. His dark hair was perfect. His suit was made just for him by the best tailor in the city. Marcus was famous for playing piano. He had played in big halls all over the world. Rich people paid lots of money to hear him play. Marcus loved being famous. He loved when people said nice things about his music. He loved when newspapers wrote stories about him. Most of all, he loved feeling better than other people. He thought he was special because he could play piano so well. Tonight, Marcus had already played 3 songs for the crowd. The people clapped very loud when he finished. They told him he was amazing. They said he was the best piano player in the world. Marcus smiled big. He felt very proud of himself. "That was wonderful, Marcus," said Mrs. Harrison. She was an old woman who had lots of money. She gave money to help young musicians. "You play like an angel." "Thank you," Marcus said. He liked when people said things like this. "I have been playing since I was 4 years old." It takes years of hard work to play like this. Around Marcus stood a group of people who always followed him to parties. They laughed at his jokes. They agreed with everything he said. They made him feel very important. Marcus liked having these people around him. "Marcus, will you play something else?" asked a young woman. She had blonde hair and wore a red dress that cost $5,000. "Maybe later," Marcus said. He wanted to walk around and let more people see him. He wanted to hear more nice things about his playing. The party was very fancy. Waiters in white jackets carried trays of food that looked like small works of art. The food had names that most people could not say. There was caviar from Russia and cheese from France. Everything was the most expensive kind you could buy. People talked about their big houses and fast cars. They talked about trips to faraway places. They talked about buying expensive paintings and jewelry. Marcus fit right in with these people. He had money, too. He had a big apartment and a fast car. He wore a watch that cost more than most people made in a year. But Marcus wanted more than money. He wanted everyone to know how special he was. He wanted people to think he was better than them. Music was his way to feel this way. The piano sat in the middle of everything like a king on a throne. People walked around it in a circle. Some people took pictures of themselves standing next to it. Others just looked at it with big eyes like they had never seen anything so beautiful. Marcus walked over to the piano and put his hand on it. Right away, people came over to watch him. They hoped he would play again. Marcus liked this attention. He stood up straight and smiled his best smile. "This piano is very special," Marcus told the crowd that gathered around him. "It is made by the best piano makers in the world. Only the best musicians get to play pianos like this." The people nodded and made sounds like they were very impressed. Marcus felt good. He felt important. He felt like he was the most interesting person in the room. "Most people will never get to touch a piano like this," Marcus went on. "It takes years of training to even know how to sit at a piano like this. You cannot just walk up and play it." Marcus looked around the room. He saw all the rich people listening to him. He saw the expensive decorations on the walls. He saw the crystal glasses and silver plates. Everything was perfect and expensive and fancy. Then Marcus saw something that did not fit. In the corner of the room, he saw a woman in a simple gray uniform. She was cleaning dust off a table. Her uniform was old and worn. Her shoes were cheap and comfortable. Her hair was pulled back in a simple way. This was Maria Santos. She was 42 years old. She had worked as a cleaner for 15 years. Every night she cleaned offices and big buildings. Tonight she was working at this fancy party. Maria moved quietly around the room. She emptied trash cans and wiped down tables. She tried not to get in the way of the fancy people. Most of them did not even see her. To them, she was invisible. But Marcus saw her, and seeing her made him feel even more special. Here he was, famous and rich and talented, and there she was, just a cleaning lady. The difference between them made Marcus feel very good about himself. Maria worked her way closer to the piano. She had to clean the area around it. She moved very carefully, trying not to disturb the people who were talking near it. Marcus watched her with interest. He started to get an idea that would make him feel even more important. An idea that would show everyone how much better he was than regular people. The night was about to change in a way that Marcus never expected. But right now he just felt proud and happy and full of himself. He had no idea that the quiet woman in the gray uniform would soon change everything he thought he knew about music and life. The party was getting louder. More people had arrived. The room was now full of the sound of talking and laughing. Wine glasses clinked together as people made toasts. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with the food. Marcus had moved away from the piano for a while. He walked around the room talking to different groups of people. Everyone wanted to shake his hand. Everyone wanted to tell him how much they loved his music. Marcus felt like a king. "Marcus, your playing tonight was just perfect," said Mr. Chen, a man who owned many buildings in the city. "I have never heard anything so beautiful." "Thank you," Marcus said, but he was not really listening. He was looking across the room at something else. Something that was bothering him. It was the cleaning woman again. She was now working near the piano. She had a small cloth in her hand and was gently wiping dust from the piano bench. Marcus watched as she moved around the big instrument. There was something about the way she moved that caught his attention. She did not just clean the piano like it was any other piece of furniture. She cleaned it like it was something special, something important. Maria worked slowly around the piano. She was very careful not to touch the keys. She cleaned the black wood until it shined like a mirror. She made sure every spot was perfect. As Maria worked, she would sometimes stop and look at the piano. She would stare at the keys for a few seconds. Her eyes had a strange look in them. It was like she was remembering something from long ago. Marcus kept watching her. He started to feel annoyed. Why was this cleaning woman taking so long? Why was she looking at his piano that way? Did she think she belonged near such an expensive instrument? "Excuse me," Marcus said to the people he was talking with. "I will be right back." Marcus walked across the room toward the piano. His group of friends followed him. They always followed him everywhere. Marcus liked having an audience for everything he did. As Marcus got closer, he could see Maria more clearly. She was not young, but she was not old either. Her face showed that she had worked hard for many years. Her hands were rough from cleaning, but there was something gentle about the way she touched things. Maria was now cleaning the top of the piano. She moved her cloth in small circles, making the wood shine. She worked like she cared about doing a good job, like this piano mattered to her. Marcus stopped a few feet away from Maria. His friends gathered around him. Some other people at the party noticed what was happening and came over to watch. "Excuse me," Marcus said in a loud voice. Maria looked up. She saw Marcus and all the people behind him. She could tell by their clothes and the way they stood that they were important. Rich people. The kind of people who owned places like this. "Yes, sir?" Maria said quietly. Her English had a small accent. She had learned English after she came to America, but Spanish was still the language she thought in. "You are taking a very long time to clean around this piano," Marcus said. He was smiling, but it was not a nice smile. "Is there a problem?" "No, sir," Maria said. "I am just being careful. This piano is very beautiful. I do not want to hurt it." Some people in the crowd laughed a little. They thought it was funny that a cleaning lady was worried about hurting such an expensive piano. Marcus heard the laughs and felt encouraged. This was going the way he wanted. He was the center of attention again, and he was showing everyone the difference between important people like him and working people like this woman. "Have you ever seen a piano like this before?" Marcus asked Maria. He made his voice sound like he was talking to a child. "I have seen pianos before," Maria said. She kept working, but more slowly now. She could feel all the people watching her. "But not like this one, I bet," Marcus said. He put his hand on the piano like he owned it. "This piano costs more than you probably make in 10 years. More people laughed. Marcus felt good. He was entertaining the crowd. He was showing off. This was exactly what he wanted. Maria stopped cleaning. She stood up straight and looked at Marcus. Her eyes were calm, but there was something in them. Something that Marcus did not notice because he was too busy enjoying himself. "It is a very nice piano," Maria said simply. "Nice?" Marcus laughed. "This is not just nice. This is one of the finest pianos in the world. Only the greatest musicians get to play instruments like this." Marcus looked around at his audience. Everyone was watching and listening. He was putting on a good show for them. "I bet you have never even touched piano keys before," Marcus continued. "Most people have not. It takes years of training just to learn how to sit at a piano properly." Maria did not answer right away. She looked at the piano keys. The black and white keys seemed to call to her. For just a moment, her careful, quiet mask slipped. Marcus saw something pass across her face, but he did not understand what it was. "I have touched piano keys before," Maria said softly. "Really?" Marcus said. He made his voice sound very surprised, like this was the most amazing thing he had ever heard. "Where, on some old broken piano somewhere?" The crowd was getting bigger. More people wanted to see what was happening. They could tell that something interesting was going on. Marcus loved having all these people watch him. Marcus moved closer to the piano. He sat down on the bench and played a few quick notes. The sound was perfect and clear. Everyone watched his fingers move on the keys. "You see," Marcus said, "playing piano is not easy. It takes talent. It takes years of practice. It takes a special kind of mind." Marcus stood up from the bench. He had an idea that would make this moment even better for him. An idea that would really show everyone how special he was. "You know what?" Marcus said, looking right at Maria. "Since you have touched piano keys before, maybe you would like to try playing this one?" The crowd got quiet. This was unexpected. They all looked at Maria, waiting to see what she would say. Marcus was sure she would say no. She would be too scared, too embarrassed, and then he could make a joke about it and everyone would laugh and think he was very funny. But Maria did not look scared. She looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then she looked at the piano. Then she looked back at Marcus. "All right," she said quietly. "I will try." Marcus was surprised. This was not what he expected, but it was even better. Now she would try to play and fail. Everyone would see how silly it was for a cleaning lady to think she could play piano. "It would be very entertaining, wonderful," Marcus said. He was grinning now. This should be very interesting for everyone. The crowd moved closer. Someone whispered to someone else. People started to smile, waiting for the show to begin. Maria put down her cleaning cloth. She looked at her hands for a moment. They were rough from years of work, but they were steady. Marcus stepped back from the piano. He was already thinking about what he would say after Maria failed to play anything good. He would be kind about it, of course. He would not be mean. But everyone would understand the lesson. Some people were meant to clean and some people were meant to make music. Maria walked slowly toward the piano bench. The room got very quiet. Everyone was watching her every move. Marcus had no idea what was about to happen. He thought he was about to teach everyone a lesson about talent and class and who belonged where. But the lesson that was coming would be very different from what he expected. The room was now very quiet. All the talking and laughing had stopped. Everyone was looking at Marcus and Maria standing near the beautiful black piano. People held their wine glasses and waited to see what would happen next. Marcus felt excited. This was perfect. He had everyone's attention. Soon this cleaning woman would try to play piano and everyone would see how silly it was. Then Marcus would be the hero who showed everyone the difference between real musicians and regular people. Marcus looked around at all the faces watching him. He saw Mrs. Harrison, the rich old woman who gave money to musicians. He saw Mr. Chen, who owned many buildings. He saw all his friends who always agreed with everything he said. They were all waiting for him to entertain them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus said in a loud voice like he was announcing something important, "we are about to have a very special treat tonight." People moved closer to the piano. Some held up their phones to take pictures or videos. They thought this would be funny to share with their friends later. Marcus put his hand on Maria's shoulder. She felt small next to him. Her gray uniform looked very plain next to his expensive black suit. "This lovely lady has agreed to play our beautiful piano for us," Marcus said. "I think we should all give her our full attention." Maria looked at all the people staring at her. There were at least 50 people now, maybe more. Rich people in expensive clothes. Important people who probably never talked to cleaning ladies like her. Most people would have been very scared. Most people would have said no and walked away. But Maria just stood quietly and looked at the piano. Now I should tell everyone, Marcus continued. This piano is worth more than most people's houses. It is made by the finest craftsmen in the world. Usually, only trained concert pianists are allowed to play instruments like this. Marcus was enjoying himself. He liked being the center of attention. He liked feeling important and smart. But tonight we are going to let someone try who has probably never seen a real piano before, Marcus said. I think it will be very educational for all of us. Some people in the crowd smiled. They understood what Marcus was doing. He was going to show them the difference between people like them and people like Maria. It would be entertaining. Maria listened to everything Marcus said. She did not look angry or upset. She just listened with a calm face. But inside she was thinking about many things. She was thinking about when she was a little girl in Colombia. She was thinking about her first piano teacher, Senora Rodriguez, who had kind eyes and gentle hands. She was thinking about hours and hours of practice, learning to make her fingers move just right on the keys. She was thinking about playing for her parents when she was 12 years old. How proud they looked when she played Chopin for them. How her mother cried happy tears. She was thinking about the conservatory in Bogota, where she studied with the best teachers in the country, where everyone said she had a special gift, where they said she could be one of the great pianists of the world. But she was also thinking about the day everything changed. The day her father was killed. The day her family had to leave Colombia and come to America with nothing. The day she had to stop being a musician and start being whatever she needed to be to survive. Marcus did not know any of this. He just saw a middle-aged cleaning woman in a gray uniform. He did not see the little girl who had played piano for presidents and kings. He did not see the young woman who had won every music competition she entered. So, Marcus said, spreading his arms wide, let us see what our friend here can do with a real piano. Marcus stepped back from the piano bench. He was smiling big like he had just told a very good joke. His friends were smiling too. Everyone was ready to watch Maria fail, and then Marcus would make everyone laugh about it. Go ahead, Marcus said to Maria. Do not be nervous. Just try your best. Maria walked to the piano bench. She moved slowly, but not because she was scared. She moved slowly because every step brought back memories. Every step took her back to a time when music was her whole world. She sat down on the bench. It was the right height. It felt familiar under her. She had sat on piano benches like this thousands of times before. Maria looked at the keys. 88 keys, black and white, just like every piano she had ever played. They looked exactly the same as the piano in her tiny apartment, except these keys were perfect and clean and beautiful. Take your time, Marcus said. He was being very polite, but his voice had a mean edge to it. I know this might be a little overwhelming for you. Maria put her hands in her lap. She looked at the keys for a long moment. Everyone watched and waited. Some people started to get a little impatient. They had expected her to start playing right away and fail quickly. But she was just sitting there looking at the piano. Is there a problem? Marcus asked. Maybe this is too difficult. It is okay if you want to stop now. Marcus thought she was getting scared. He thought she was realizing that she could not really play piano and was trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. But Maria was not scared. She was just remembering. She was thinking about which piece to play. She had not played for other people in 15 years. Only alone in her apartment late at night when her neighbors could not hear. She was thinking about all the pieces she used to know. Chopin, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, hundreds of pieces that lived in her fingers and her heart. Pieces that she could still play perfectly even after all these years. Maria looked up at Marcus. Their eyes met for a moment. Marcus saw something in her eyes that he had not noticed before. Something that made him feel a little uncomfortable, though he did not know why. I will play something for you, Maria said quietly. Her voice was steady and calm. Wonderful, Marcus said. But suddenly he did not feel as confident as before. There was something about the way Maria was sitting at the piano, something about the way she looked at the keys, something that seemed different. Marcus shook off the feeling. This was just a cleaning lady. What could she possibly know about playing piano? Maria placed her hands over the keys. She did not touch them yet. She just held her hands in the right position. Her back was straight. Her shoulders were relaxed. She looked like she had sat at pianos many times before. The room was completely quiet now. Even the waiters had stopped moving around. Everyone was watching Maria's hands. Marcus stood behind her, still smiling. He was ready to make jokes when she played some simple children's song badly. He was ready to be kind but firm about how real music was much harder than people thought. Maria took a deep breath. She closed her eyes for just a moment. Then she opened them and looked at the keys. And then she began to play. The first note filled the room like a bell. It was perfect, clear and strong and beautiful. Then came the second note and the third. Marcus's smile started to fade. This was not what he expected. The notes were not random or simple. They were forming a melody. A real melody. Maria's fingers moved across the keys with confidence. She was not searching for the right notes. She knew exactly where they were. She was not playing slowly or carefully like someone who was not sure what they were doing. She was playing like someone who had done this many, many times before. The piece she was playing was complex. It was not a children's song or a simple tune. It was real classical music. Music that took years to learn. Marcus felt his stomach drop. This was not going the way he had planned. This was not going the way it was supposed to go at all. The cleaning lady could really play piano. And she was playing it very, very well. The first few notes hung in the air like magic. Everyone in the room froze. People stopped moving their wine glasses halfway to their lips. Conversations died in the middle of sentences. Even the waiters stopped walking and turned to stare. Marcus felt his heart start to beat faster. This was not right. This was not what was supposed to happen. The cleaning woman was supposed to hit wrong notes and play badly. Everyone was supposed to laugh, and then Marcus was supposed to show them how real piano playing was done. But those notes were perfect. Maria sat at the piano like she belonged there. Her back was straight but relaxed. Her shoulders were in exactly the right position. Her feet were flat on the floor, just like piano teachers taught their students to sit. Marcus knew how to sit at a piano. He had been taught by the best teachers in the world. And this woman was sitting exactly the same way, like someone who had spent years learning the right way to play. "What is she playing?" whispered Mrs. Harrison to the person next to her. But Marcus knew what she was playing. He recognized the piece. It was Chopin's Ballad No. 1 in G minor, one of the most difficult pieces ever written for piano. A piece that took years to learn properly. A piece that only very good pianists could play well. Marcus felt sweat start to form on his forehead. This could not be happening. A cleaning lady could not know how to play Chopin. It was impossible. Maria's fingers moved across the keys with ease. The melody flowed from her hands like water from a spring. Each note was clear and perfect. The timing was exactly right. The volume was exactly what it should be. People in the crowd started to look confused. This was not what they had expected either. They had come to watch a cleaning lady embarrass herself. Instead, they were hearing beautiful music. "Is this really happening?" someone whispered. Maria played the opening section of the ballad perfectly. Her left hand played the deep bass notes while her right hand played the melody. Both hands worked together like they had done this thousands of times before. Marcus watched her hands move. He had studied piano for over 30 years. He knew what good technique looked like. And Maria's technique was very, very good. Her fingers were curved just right. She pressed the keys with exactly the right amount of force. When she played soft notes, they were gentle like whispers. When she played loud notes, they were strong but not harsh. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. This woman played better than some of his students. Some of his students who paid him hundreds of dollars for lessons. The crowd was getting bigger. People from other parts of the hall heard the music and came over to see what was happening. They expected to see Marcus playing since he was the famous pianist at the party. Instead, they saw a woman in a gray cleaning uniform sitting at the piano. And the music coming from the piano was incredible. "Who is that?" People started asking each other. "I think she works here," someone answered. "She was cleaning earlier." But listen to her play. Marcus looked around at all the confused faces. His friends who always agreed with him looked shocked. Mrs. Harrison had her mouth open in surprise. Mr. Chen was staring at Maria like he could not believe what he was seeing. Maria continued playing. The piece was getting more complicated now. The notes came faster. The melody jumped from high to low and back again. Most people would have made mistakes by now. But Maria played every note perfectly. Marcus had played this same piece many times in his concerts. He knew how hard it was. There were parts that even he had to practice over and over to get right. But Maria was playing those parts like they were easy. Her face was calm and focused. She was not struggling or concentrating hard like someone who was not sure what to do. She looked peaceful, like this was the most natural thing in the world for her. Marcus remembered when he first learned this piece. It had taken him months to play it well. His teacher had made him practice it slowly over and over until his fingers learned where to go. Even now he had to be very careful when he played it, but Maria was playing it like she had known it her whole life. The room was completely silent except for the piano music. No one was talking. No one was moving. Everyone was listening to the beautiful sounds coming from the piano. Marcus felt angry and confused and scared all at the same time. This was his night. He was supposed to be the star. He was supposed to be the one everyone admired for his musical talent. How could a cleaning lady play better than him? It did not make sense. It was not fair. Marcus looked at Maria's hands again. They were not the hands of someone who had just learned to play piano. They were the hands of someone who had played for many, many years. Her fingers moved with confidence and skill that took decades to develop. "This is impossible," Marcus whispered to himself, but it was happening right in front of him. Maria was playing one of the most difficult pieces of classical music ever written, and she was playing it beautifully. The ballad continued. Maria moved into a section that was very fast and complicated. Her fingers flew over the keys. The notes came so quickly they sounded like rain on a roof. But every single note was clear and perfect. People in the crowd started to smile, not because they thought this was funny, but because the music was so beautiful. Some people closed their eyes to listen better. Others swayed slightly to the rhythm. Marcus felt like the world was turning upside down. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. This woman was not just some cleaning lady who happened to know a little about piano. She was a real musician, a very good musician. Mrs. Harrison stepped closer to Marcus. "Do you know who she is?" she whispered. Marcus shook his head. He could not speak. He was too shocked by what he was hearing. "She plays like a professional," Mrs. Harrison said. "Where did she learn to play like this?" Marcus did not know. He did not understand anything that was happening. Maria reached the middle section of the ballad. This was the most beautiful part of the piece. The melody was sad and sweet at the same time. It made people think of lost love and distant memories. Maria played this section with such feeling that some people in the crowd started to get tears in their eyes. The music was not just technically perfect. It was full of emotion and life. Marcus had played this same section many times. But when he played it, people clapped politely and said nice things. When Maria played it, people felt something deep in their hearts. Marcus realized that Maria was not just a good piano player. She was a great piano player, maybe better than him. The thought made him feel sick. How could this be true? He was Marcus Whitfield. He was famous. He had played in the best concert halls in the world. People paid lots of money to hear him play, but this woman in a cleaning uniform was making music that was more beautiful than anything he had ever done. The crowd around the piano was getting bigger and bigger. People were taking out their phones to record what was happening. They knew they were seeing something special. Marcus wanted to run away. He wanted to hide, but he could not move. He could only stand there and listen as Maria continued to play the most beautiful music he had ever heard. Maria's fingers danced across the keys like they were telling a story. The music filled every corner of the big room. It seemed to wrap around each person and touch their heart in a different way. Marcus stood frozen behind her. His mouth was open, but no sound came out. Sweat ran down his face even though the room was not hot. His hands shook as he watched Maria play. This was not just good piano playing. This was extraordinary. This was the kind of playing that Marcus had only heard from the greatest musicians in the world. The kind of playing that made people remember why they loved music in the first place. The ballad moved into its most difficult section. The notes came fast and complicated. Maria's left hand played a steady rhythm while her right hand flew across the high keys. The two hands worked together perfectly, like dancers who had practiced together for years. Marcus knew this section very well. He had practiced it hundreds of times. Even now, when he played it in concerts, he had to concentrate very hard to get all the notes right. One small mistake could ruin the whole piece, but Maria played it like it was easy. Her fingers never hesitated. They knew exactly where to go. She never looked down at the keys. She just played, and the music flowed out like a river. People in the crowd began to whisper to each other. How is this possible? Who is she? Where did she learn to play like this? This is incredible. Mrs. Harrison moved closer to Marcus. Marcus, she whispered, this woman is extraordinary. Do you know anything about her? Marcus could not answer. He was too shocked to speak. All his life he had thought he was special. He had thought he was one of the best piano players in the world. But listening to Maria play made him realize something terrible. He was good at piano. But Maria was great, the music continued. Maria played with such feeling that the notes seemed alive. When the melody was sad, it made people want to cry. When it was happy, it made them want to smile. When it was powerful, it made them feel strong. Marcus had never heard anyone play with so much emotion. When he played, people said his technique was perfect. They said he played all the notes correctly, but they never said his music made them feel things deep in their hearts. Maria's music did that. It reached inside people and touched places they had forgotten existed. A young woman in the crowd started to cry softly. The music reminded her of her grandmother, who used to play piano for her when she was little. An old man thought about his wife, who had died 2 years ago and loved classical music. Everyone was feeling something different, but everyone was feeling something. The music was not just notes and rhythms. It was life and love and sadness and joy all mixed together. Marcus looked around at the faces in the crowd. People were not just listening politely like they did at his concerts. They were completely caught up in the music. Some had their eyes closed. Some were swaying gently. Some had tears running down their faces. This was what real music was supposed to do. This was what Marcus had always wanted his playing to do, but he had never been able to make people feel this way. Maria reached the climax of the piece. The music became very loud and powerful. Her fingers pressed the keys with perfect strength. The sound filled the room like thunder, but beautiful thunder that made people feel excited instead of scared. Marcus felt his knees get weak. He had heard many great pianists play this piece. He had heard it played in the best concert halls in the world, but he had never heard anyone play it better than Maria was playing it right now. How was this possible? How could a cleaning lady play better than musicians who had studied at the finest schools in the world? How could someone in a gray uniform make more beautiful music than people who wore expensive concert clothes? Marcus began to realize that he had made a terrible mistake. He had thought that fancy clothes and expensive schools and famous names made someone a good musician. But Maria was proving that none of those things mattered. The only thing that mattered was the music itself. And Maria's music was perfect. The piece moved toward its ending. The loud, powerful section became softer and more gentle. Maria's touch on the keys became light as a feather. The notes floated through the air like butterflies. Marcus watched her hands. Even though the music was soft now, her technique was still perfect. She controlled every single note exactly the way she wanted it. This was not luck or accident. This was skill that took a lifetime to develop. People in the crowd had stopped whispering. They barely seemed to be breathing. Everyone was afraid to make any sound that might disturb the beautiful music. Maria played the final section of the ballade with such tenderness that it felt like a gentle kiss goodbye. Each note was precious and perfect. The melody sang like a voice telling a story of love and loss and hope. Marcus felt tears start to form in his eyes. He was not crying because he was sad exactly. He was crying because the music was so beautiful that his heart could not hold all the feelings it was giving him. He was also crying because he was ashamed. He had been so mean to Maria. He had treated her like she was nothing. He had made fun of her in front of all these people. He had thought he was better than her, but she was better than him. Much better. The last notes of the ballade hung in the air like stars in the night sky. Maria's hands lifted gently from the keys. The room became completely silent. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody even seemed to breathe. Then slowly people began to clap. But this was not the polite clapping that Marcus usually heard at his concerts. This was thunderous applause that came from deep in people's hearts. People clapped louder and louder. Some began to shout, "Bravo!" Others whistled. Everyone was on their feet, giving Maria a standing ovation. Marcus had never received applause like this. Never in his whole career had people responded to his music with such genuine excitement and joy. Maria sat quietly at the piano bench. She did not stand up to take a bow like concert pianists usually did. She just sat there with her hands in her lap. looking a little surprised by all the noise. The applause continued for several minutes. People did not want to stop clapping. They wanted to show Maria how much her music had meant to them. Finally, the applause began to fade. People started to look at each other with amazement in their eyes. They all had the same questions. Who was this woman? Where had she learned to play like this? Why was she working as a cleaning lady when she could play piano better than most professional musicians? Marcus wiped the tears from his eyes. He looked at Maria sitting quietly at the piano. She looked so small and humble in her gray uniform. But she had just done something that Marcus could never do. She had made a room full of people fall in love with music. Marcus knew his life had just changed forever. Nothing would ever be the same again. He would never again be able to think of himself as a great pianist without remembering this moment. The moment when a cleaning lady showed him what real music sounded like. The applause slowly died down, but people did not move away from the piano. They stayed close, hoping Maria would play something else. Their faces were full of wonder and excitement. They had just heard something magical and they wanted more. Maria sat quietly on the piano bench. Her hands rested gently in her lap. She looked at the keys for a moment, then looked up at all the people staring at her. "That was incredible," said Mrs. Harrison, stepping forward. "Please, would you play something else?" Other people began to ask the same thing. "Yes, please play more. That was the most beautiful music I have ever heard. Where did you learn to play like that?" Maria looked around at all the eager faces. These were the same people who had been ready to laugh at her just a few minutes ago. Now they were looking at her like she was a miracle. Marcus still stood behind the piano, but he had moved back a little. His face was very pale. He looked like someone who had just seen a ghost. All his confidence was gone. All his pride had disappeared. Maria turned back to the piano. She placed her hands over the keys again. "I will play one more piece," she said softly. The room became quiet again. People moved even closer to the piano. Someone near the back stood on a chair to see better. This time, Maria chose a different piece. She began to play Bach's Air on the G string, but she played her own special version of it for piano. The melody was simple and pure, but the way she played it made it sound like angels singing. Each note was perfect, but more than that, each note had meaning. Maria was not just playing the right keys at the right time. She was telling a story with the music. The story was about her life, about being a little girl who loved music more than anything else in the world, about hours spent practicing while other children played outside, about the joy of making beautiful sounds with her fingers. But the story was also about sadness, about losing everything she loved, about having to give up her dreams, about working hard jobs just to survive while the music stayed locked up inside her heart. Marcus listened to every note. He began to understand that Maria was not just playing music. She was sharing her soul with everyone in the room. When Marcus played piano, he thought about technique. He thought about playing the notes correctly and impressing people with how skilled he was. But Maria was not trying to impress anyone. She was just sharing the most beautiful part of herself. The Bach piece was not as complicated as the Chopin, but Maria played it with such feeling that it seemed even more beautiful. Every person in the room felt like she was playing just for them. A waiter who had been serving drinks put down his tray and wiped tears from his eyes. A young woman who had been taking pictures with her phone forgot all about her phone and just listened. An old man who had been checking his watch all evening stood perfectly still, lost in the music. Marcus watched all of this happen. He saw how Maria's music affected people. It was nothing like the polite attention he got when he played. People listened to Marcus because they were supposed to. People listened to Maria because they could not help themselves. Maria played the Bach piece all the way through without stopping. When she finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. Then the applause started again, even louder than before. But Maria was not finished. Without saying anything, she started to play a third piece. This time it was something completely different. She played a Colombian folk song that her grandmother had taught her when she was very young. She had changed it and made it more complex, but the heart of the song was still there. It was full of sunshine and dancing and the sounds of her homeland. This piece was happy and playful. Maria's fingers danced across the keys like children playing in a park. The music made people want to move and smile. Some people in the crowd actually started swaying to the rhythm. Marcus had never heard this song before, but he could tell it was something special to Maria. She played it with such love and joy that everyone in the room could feel how much it meant to her. After the folk song, Maria played part of a Mozart sonata. Then she played a piece by a composer Marcus had never heard of. Each piece was completely different, but Maria played all of them beautifully. With each song, Marcus felt smaller and smaller. He realized that Maria knew hundreds of pieces of music. She could play classical music and folk music and probably many other kinds too. Her knowledge was deep and wide in ways that his had never been. Marcus had always played the same types of pieces. Classical music by famous composers. Music that was impressive and difficult. But Maria played music that came from her heart and from her life experience. People in the crowd began to talk quietly to each other between pieces. She must have studied at a great music school. Maybe she was a professional pianist before. I wonder why she is working as a cleaning lady. This does not make sense. Marcus wondered the same things. How could someone with this much talent end up cleaning buildings? What had happened in Maria's life to bring her to this place? But more than that, Marcus was beginning to understand something about himself. He had always thought that being a good musician meant being famous and making money and having people know your name. But Maria showed him that being a good musician meant something else. It meant having music in your soul. It meant being able to share that music with others in a way that touched their hearts. Marcus was famous, but Maria was a true musician. After playing for almost 30 minutes, Maria finally stopped. She had played 6 or 7 different pieces, each one more beautiful than the last. The room erupted in applause that seemed like it would never end. People were crying openly now. They had just experienced something they would remember for the rest of their lives. They had heard music played with such skill and feeling that it changed something inside them. Maria stood up from the piano bench. For the first time, she looked a little embarrassed by all the attention. She smoothed down her gray uniform and picked up her cleaning cloth from where she had left it. "Thank you," she said quietly to the crowd. "I should get back to work now." But people did not want her to go back to work. They wanted to talk to her. They wanted to know her story. They wanted to understand how someone so gifted could be unknown. Mrs. Harrison stepped forward. "Please," she said, "we must talk. What is your name? Where did you learn to play like this?" Maria looked at all the eager faces around her. These people wanted answers, and maybe it was time to give them some. Marcus stood at the edge of the crowd, watching and listening. He knew that everything was about to change. For Maria and for him too. The performance was over, but the real story was just beginning. Maria looked at all the people gathered around her. Their faces were full of questions and excitement. For 15 years she had kept her secret. For 15 years no one had known who she really was. But now, looking at their kind eyes and hearing their genuine praise, she felt something change inside her heart. Maybe it was time to tell the truth. "My name is Maria Santos," she said in her quiet voice. "I am from Colombia." Mrs. Harrison stepped closer. "Maria, you play like you studied at the best music schools in the world. Where did you learn?" Maria took a deep breath. This was the question she had been afraid of for so many years. But these people had listened to her music with such respect and love. They deserved to know. "I did study at a good music school," Maria said. "In Bogota at the National Conservatory. I studied there for 8 years. Whispers went through the crowd. The National Conservatory in Bogota was famous. Only the most talented musicians in Colombia got to study there. "When did you study there?" asked Mr. Chen. "I started when I was 10 years old," Maria said. "I finished when I was 18. After that, I played concerts all over Colombia. I also played in other countries in South America." Marcus felt his mouth fall open. Maria had been a professional concert pianist. She had performed all over South America. She was not just someone who knew how to play piano. She had been a real musician with a real career. "But that was a long time ago," Maria continued. "I came to America 22 years ago. I have not played concerts since then." "Why?" asked Mrs. Harrison gently. "What happened?" Maria was quiet for a moment. Her eyes looked sad as she remembered things that were painful to think about. "There was trouble in Colombia," she said finally. "Political trouble. My father was a teacher and a writer. He wrote things that some people did not like. One day men came to our house. They killed my father." The room became very quiet. People looked shocked and sad. This was not what they had expected to hear. "My mother and I had to leave Colombia very quickly," Maria went on. "We could only take a little bit of money and a few clothes. We came to America with almost nothing." Marcus felt terrible. While he was growing up rich and comfortable, learning piano in expensive schools, Maria and her mother were running for their lives. When we got to America, everything was very hard, Maria said. We did not speak English well. We did not have money. We did not know anyone. My mother got sick from all the stress and sadness. I had to take care of her. Mrs. Harrison had tears in her eyes. But surely you could have found work as a musician here too. Maria shook her head. I tried. But I was young and scared. I did not speak English well. I did not know how things worked in America. When I went to music schools and concert halls, they did not take me seriously. I had no connections, no recommendations, and I needed money right away to pay for my mother's medicine and our rent. So what did you do? Someone asked. I took whatever jobs I could find, Maria said. First, I worked in a restaurant kitchen. Then I cleaned offices at night. The cleaning job paid better, and I could work when other people were sleeping. During the day, I could take care of my mother. Marcus thought about his own life. When he was young, if he had wanted to perform somewhere, his parents would have made phone calls. They would have used their connections to help him. They would have paid for whatever he needed. Maria had none of those advantages. Did you ever try to go back to music? Asked a young woman in the crowd. A few times, Maria said. But the years went by so fast. My mother needed more and more care as she got older. I was working 2 jobs just to pay the bills. I was so tired all the time, and I started to feel like maybe music was from a different life, a life that was over. But you kept playing at home? Mrs. Harrison asked. Maria nodded. I bought a small keyboard when I had saved enough money. Nothing fancy, but it had all the keys. I played at night very quietly when my neighbors could not hear. It was the only way I could stay sane. Marcus felt ashamed of every expensive piano he owned. He had 3 different pianos in his apartment, each one worth more than Maria probably made in several years. And she had kept her incredible talent alive with just a small keyboard. My mother died 5 years ago, Maria continued. After that, I thought maybe I could try music again. But I was 57 years old. I had been away from the music world for so long. I did not know if I was still good enough. You are more than good enough, said Mrs. Harrison firmly. You are extraordinary. Many people in the crowd nodded and murmured agreement. Tonight was the first time I have played for other people in 22 years, Maria said. I was very nervous. You did not look nervous at all, said someone in the crowd. Maria smiled a little. When I sit at a piano, I remember who I used to be. The music comes back like it never left. Marcus stepped forward. For the first time since Maria had started playing, he spoke. His voice was shaky and full of emotion. Maria, he said, I owe you an apology. A big apology. I treated you terribly tonight. I thought I was better than you because of my fancy clothes and my reputation. But you are a far better musician than I will ever be. Maria looked at him with kind eyes. You do not need to apologize, she said. You did not know. But I should have known better, Marcus said. I should have treated you with respect no matter what. A person's job does not tell you who they really are inside. Marcus felt tears running down his face. I have been playing piano my whole life, but I never made people feel the way you made them feel tonight. Your music has a soul that mine does not have. Music is not a competition, Maria said gently. There is room for all kinds of musicians in the world. But Marcus knew she was wrong about one thing. There were not many musicians like Maria in the world. Maybe there was only one. Mrs. Harrison stepped forward again. Maria, I run a foundation that helps musicians. We provide money for people who want to study music or start musical careers. I would be honored to help you get back into the music world if that is what you want. Other people in the crowd began to speak up. I know people at the symphony orchestra, said one man. They are always looking for talented soloists. I can introduce you to the best music agents in the city, said a woman. You should record an album, said someone else. People all over the world need to hear you play. Maria looked overwhelmed by all the offers of help. For so many years she had felt invisible and forgotten. Now suddenly all these important people wanted to help her. I do not know what to say, she said. This is all very unexpected. Say yes, said Mrs. Harrison. Say yes to letting the world hear your music again. Maria was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the piano, then at all the faces around her. These people believed in her. They wanted to help her. Maybe it was not too late to have the life she had always dreamed of. Yes, she said finally. Yes, I would like that very much. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. People began talking excitedly about all the things they could do to help Maria. Marcus watched all of this with mixed feelings. He was happy for Maria, but he was also thinking about his own life. What was he going to do now? How could he go back to his old life after what had happened tonight? Maria had shown him what real music was supposed to be. Now he had to figure out what that meant for him. 3 months later, Maria stood backstage at Carnegie Hall. She wore a beautiful black dress that Mrs. Harrison had bought for her. Her hair was done in an elegant style. She looked like the concert pianist she had always been meant to be. But inside, Maria felt nervous. Tonight was her debut recital in New York City. All the most important people in the music world would be in the audience. Music critics from major newspapers were there. Famous musicians were there. Record company executives were there. "Are you ready?" asked Mrs. Harrison, who had become like a mother to Maria over the past 3 months. "I think so," Maria said. Her hands were shaking a little. Mrs. Harrison smiled. "You will be wonderful." "You always are." In the past 3 months, Maria's life had changed completely. Mrs. Harrison had kept her promise to help. She had introduced Maria to the best music teachers and agents in the city. She had arranged for Maria to practice on the finest pianos. She had even helped Maria find a nice apartment in a good neighborhood. Maria had worked hard to prepare for this concert. Even though she had never stopped playing, performing for an audience was different from playing alone in her apartment. She had practiced every day for hours, getting ready for this moment. Out in the audience, Marcus sat in the front row. He had bought his ticket the day they went on sale. He would not have missed this concert for anything in the world. Marcus's life had changed too, but in a different way. After that night at the charity party, he had done a lot of thinking about himself and his music. He realized that he had been playing piano for the wrong reasons. He had been trying to impress people and make himself feel important. But Maria had shown him that music was supposed to be about sharing beauty and emotion with others. Marcus had started taking lessons with a new teacher. Not to learn new techniques, but to learn how to put more feeling into his music. He was also working with poor children, teaching them piano for free. He discovered that helping others learn music made him happier than performing in fancy concerts. The curtain rose, and Maria walked onto the stage of Carnegie Hall. The audience applauded as she made her way to the beautiful, grand piano in the center of the stage. Maria sat down at the piano bench and looked out at the audience. The hall was completely full. Every seat was taken. People had come from all over the world to hear her play. She saw Marcus in the front row, smiling and giving her an encouraging nod. She saw Mrs. Harrison, who was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. She saw many other faces of people who had helped her get to this moment. But she also thought about people who were not there. Her mother, who had died before seeing her daughter return to music. Her father, who had always believed she would be a great musician someday. Her first piano teacher in Colombia, who had told her that music was the language of the heart. Maria placed her hands on the keys and began to play. She started with the same Chopin ballade that she had played that night at the charity party. But tonight she played it even better. 3 months of practice and preparation had made her playing even more beautiful. The audience was completely quiet as Maria played. They could tell right away that they were hearing something special. This was not just another classical music concert. This was something magical. Maria played piece after piece, each one more beautiful than the last. She played Chopin and Bach and Mozart. She also played some Colombian folk music that she had arranged for piano. The audience loved hearing the music from her homeland. With each piece, Maria felt more confident and comfortable. This was where she belonged. This was what she was meant to do. For 22 years, she had been living only half a life. Tonight, she was whole again. When Maria finished her last piece, the audience erupted in the loudest applause Carnegie Hall had heard in years. People jumped to their feet and clapped until their hands hurt. Some people were crying. Others were shouting "Bravo" at the top of their lungs. Maria stood up and bowed to the audience. She had dreamed of this moment for so many years. Even when it seemed impossible, even when she thought it would never happen, she had dreamed of standing on this stage and sharing her music with the world. The applause continued for almost 10 minutes. The audience did not want to stop showing Maria how much they loved her music. Finally, Maria sat back down at the piano and played one more piece as an encore. She played a simple lullaby that her mother used to sing to her when she was little. She had arranged it for piano, and it was gentle and sweet and full of love. It was her way of saying thank you to everyone who had helped her get to this moment. After the concert, people crowded around Maria backstage. Music critics wanted to interview her. Record companies wanted to sign her to contracts. Concert halls from around the world wanted to book her for performances. "You were incredible," said a famous violinist who had come to hear her play. "I have never heard anyone play with such emotion and skill." "When is your next concert?" asked a music critic from the New York Times. "I want to make sure I am there." Maria was overwhelmed by all the attention, but she was also very happy. Finally, after all these years, people were hearing her music and loving it. Marcus waited until the crowd thinned out before approaching Maria. When he finally got to talk to her, he had tears in his eyes. "Maria," he said, "that was the most beautiful concert I have ever heard. Thank you for showing me what real music is supposed to be." "Thank you for helping make this possible," Maria said. "That night at the party changed both of our lives." Marcus nodded. "It was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I did not realize it at the time." Over the next year, Maria became one of the most sought-after pianists in the world. She played concerts in the best halls in America and Europe. She recorded several albums that won important awards. Music magazines wrote long articles about her incredible story. But Maria never forgot where she came from. She used some of her money to start a music school for poor children. She taught classes herself, and she made sure that talented children got the help they needed to pursue their musical dreams. Marcus kept his promise to change his own life too. He continued teaching music to children who could not afford lessons. He also became one of Maria's biggest supporters, always attending her concerts when he could. The two of them became good friends. Marcus often said that meeting Maria was the most important thing that had ever happened to him. She had taught him that music was not about being better than other people. It was about sharing something beautiful with the world. Maria's story became famous around the world. People loved hearing about the cleaning lady who became a concert pianist. But Maria always said that she had always been a pianist. For 22 years, she had just been a pianist who happened to work as a cleaning lady. "Music never left me," she would tell people. "It was always there, waiting for the right moment to come back into my life." That night at the charity party when Marcus challenged her to play piano had been that right moment. It had been the moment when Maria stopped hiding who she really was and started living her true life again, and it had been the moment when Marcus learned that the most important thing about being a musician was not fame or money or praise. The most important thing was having music in your heart and sharing it with others. Both of their lives were better because of that one magical night when a simple challenge revealed an extraordinary truth. Real talent and real beauty can be found in the most unexpected places, and it is never too late to follow your dreams.